your daily Rugby World Cup show, Chuck and Trailer, where we have a look at the game that was and try and look ahead and try and find a bet and something of value. As you all know, we had the big upset today, and Oracle and myself were a heck of a long way from calling this one right. Gavin, what the heck happened? Their biggest upset, the 20-1 winner, and we were on Uruguay to not score 11 points, and they scored 30.
Yeah, yeah, and that was if you're Fijian, and you know they've got lots of supporters. Every time you see those sevens tournaments on, there's about 25% of the crowd is Fijian, or they got some sort of light blue or whatever. But they were in a bit of trouble with their light blue today because they were up against another light blue country, Uruguay. And look, again, I keep going back to the WhatsApp group because that's sort of the only banter I got during the game. I don't really chat too much with the office workers. There's a couple of them that are interested, but generally they're not. I like to talk rugby with people that are watching and know what's going on with rugby. And when Fiji scored that first try, they looked dominant in that first sort of 5 or 6 minutes, whatever it was, 8 minutes. They scored the try. It looked very easy, and then there was an atrocious kick. And then you sort of thought to yourself, yeah, what does it matter? They'll be 12-0 up just now, and it'll carry on, and they'll run away with it. And even one of the guys said he'd taken plus 33 and he'd covered on it. I was such a small bet for me in the game today. It wasn't a big concern. I'll just go on to talk about what you've just said now about the price of Uruguay. It reminds me of when Japan beat South Africa in 2015. Oaks will come in the office and they'll say, I backed Japan at 33-1, and today you might find the odd clown who'll say you backed Uruguay at 20-1 or 16-1 or whatever. And quite frankly, they got robbed on the price. Let's just talk basic statistics here. If Uruguay play Fiji 14 times, they're certainly not going to win a second one. If they play them 20 times, they're not going to win a second one. The price is wrong. If you want people like myself and other people to get on the Uruguayans in a game like this, you've got to offer us a fair price of around about 150 or 200-1. But offering us 14-1 or 20-1, I'm just not interested. I don't care. They can win without my money. I'm not touching it. And in the same light, I'm very unlikely to be sticking Fiji to win the game at 1-50 into a multiple either. That's pretty silly too. Anyway, the Fijians were sloppy. They thought they were playing sevens. Brendan O'Connell as well, you would have seen his comments earlier saying that they were just trying to play the running game, and Uruguay were just there to make sure they made all the tackles, and they took their opportunities. Every time there was a counter-attack, Uruguay grabbed the ball or kicked the ball forward and did something with it. They didn't score a lot of tries, but they won the game. And I got to tell you, the moment for me, or the period of time for me that was the most fantastic was after the game, the celebrations and the crying and the tears, and it really meant something to him and to those Uruguayans. That number 9, he was on the bench when he came on at the end of the game. He was the happiest out of the lot. And then, sorry, one more thing I was going to say. I don't know what the hell was going on with Fiji. The number 21 scores his second try in the game, his 10th try in test matches, and he is like jumping up and down like, I don't know, like for me, I thought, I know it's a stupid comment, but it felt to me like, what are they so happy about? They now the highest scoring losing team in the tournament. They've beaten Namibia by 5. Is that what they're happy about? I don't know. At the press conference afterwards, the Fijians are going, yeah, we got a bonus point out of it. Do me a favor. You should have won the game by 30. That's ridiculous. You guys have lost by 33 points, if anything. It was sloppy. If I was a Fijian supporter and a player, I'd have my head held right down low. And in fact, I'd put a public apology onto Twitter and Facebook, apologizing to all the people that have backed their team because they've done their money in cold, and the Fijians look like they didn't even care about it.
Yeah, I must say, I think it's one thing that we kind of forget in this whole thing with your smaller teams like your Uruguayers, and they talked about it, and that's why the celebration was there as well. This is almost like their final. This is what they were preparing for, and this is their whole focus. Where you can almost not excuse them, but that Fiji probably almost looked past this game, and they were thinking about trying to upset Australia, and they were thinking about, okay, what's the next one from here? We got to focus on maybe trying to stop Wales, and they just looked past Uruguay, and it wasn't the same for Uruguay. They thought if one of the bigger guys that they can chip up is Fiji. It's their first game out. I think all the preparations went into that one. And, as someone said earlier, and I mean, that's why my stake was very small in this one. I didn't know a heck of a lot about Uruguay, but I mean, the one thing we know about the South Americans, obviously, is they got a lot of passion and they got a lot of heart, and they put it on the line today. And Fiji, as we said, to me, a lot of the bigger teams, it's almost to me like playing cricket, and you get the tail coming in, and all of a sudden you change your strategy. You think you're just gonna bounce them out quickly or just put it on the stumps and gonna miss it, but instead you should just keep doing what you're doing in every other game. Set the platform, be physical, do a few route ones, and earn the right to go wide and create overlaps. Today it was just throwing it out the back line, and you almost expect that there's going to be holes, which, I mean, these guys are still rugby players, and they've still won the right to be there, and obviously they're not just going to let you pass through and score 10 tries just for passing the ball from your fly off to your wing. So to me, that's a bit of an issue for these guys. They got to realize that, listen, it's still a game of rugby. Play it properly for 40 minutes, and then in the second 40 you can fling it around if you've built up a 20-point lead. Brent, did you get to watch much of the game? And if so, what are your thoughts? Are you impressed by Uruguay there?
Yeah, I managed to watch quite a bit of the game. And if you read my preview on Good for the Game, you'll know I actually fancied Uruguay. I didn't see your show, and I actually fancied Uruguay to get 11 points or more. And look, it wasn't a confident call. I'm not confident on anything in the early stages at this point. And the reason I did it was I just saw a result between them and Russia earlier in the year where they'd hammered Russia but like 48-28 or something. And I thought to myself, perhaps this is a Uruguay side that is going to be a little bit more expansive than our past Uruguay sides. But it was really just because I needed a bet for the preview, quite frankly. And I must tell you that I didn't realize it was an early kickoff. So I never got my bet on at the end of the day. So, Gavin talks about tears after the game. There were some tears for me as well because I hadn't got my bet on. And to make it worse, at halftime, I backed Fiji on the handicap. So not only did I pick the winner up front.
What was the handicap last time? I didn't even look, sorry.
It was about, look, at my preview, I went Uruguay 11 points or more. And then at halftime of the game, I backed, it was actually just after halftime. I backed Fiji minus 5.5. I think they just missed a penalty or something. And they were all over them at that point. And so not only did I not back the team that I wanted to or the bet that I wanted to, which would have won, but I ended up placing a losing bet. But I must say, very small interest. I got a bit burnt on Sunday in the Scotland-Ireland game. And since then, I've gone into my shell a little bit. I'm waiting for the right opportunity to come along. I think that opportunity is going to come along in the group stages. But I'm just waiting patiently till then. I will say I agree with Gavin 100%. To watch the Uruguayans celebrate that match afterwards, that reminds you what the World Cup rugby is about. And I feel sorry for Fiji in a sense that, that they had to be the victims there, but they do only have themselves to blame. But yes, Uruguay, I think Sean Nicholas made the point, I think it was on WhatsApp or somewhere there, he said, this is a very different Uruguay side to what we've seen before. And I was so impressed with them. The chances are they're going to take a hammering at some point, but absolute courage. And to keep those Fijians out the way they did, full credit to them. And, well done to any lunatic who did back Uruguay there, but that wasn't for me.
Listen, Brent, we'll go on to the two games tomorrow. But firstly, just in general, me and Gavin had a chat about this yesterday. Do you think this trend, I've seen, I think, almost all of them, the smaller teams, maybe two haven't covered the plus handicap. Do you see this kind of trend continuing where we haven't seen the big boys really probably feel a need or find that rhythm or play their B team to really put these smaller teams away? And do you see this continuing for another round of matches, or could we see a stage now where the handicap is more fairly set and the big teams perhaps starting to find it easier while the other guys struggle with some maybe squad depth or something like that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. The mindset of the teams is so crucial. I just see Stephen Marks in the live chat making the point there that Fiji made 12 changes and they didn't get away with it. Obviously, if you're Fiji, you saw this Uruguay game as a soft game. If you looked at Uruguay's performances in past World Cup, Fiji should have strolled past Uruguay. The fact is that Uruguay were better than Fiji thought. Fiji underestimated them and they paid the price. And I think teams are walking that tightrope. Whether you're playing for third position in the log or whether you're playing to try and win it, you're walking that tightrope. And I think what and I mentioned it the other night, some of the big teams, you've got to look at what their goals and objectives are. And I mean, England, for example, we come out and hammer Tonga. But the reality is they wanted 4 tries and a bonus point and move on to the next game. And if you look at it, we'll touch on it now, the USA game as well. I've seen the monies now come for the USA because I think people have realised that England are potentially, that's all they're looking for. I tell you where the opportunity is going to come in this World Cup. It's going to be a game like Italy against the Springboks or Italy against New Zealand. And where I come with this, and I'm basing this on past World Cups, what you'll get a side like Italy who says, okay, listen, we've got to target one of the two games. I don't know how far apart they are, but if they're far apart, maybe this, but I'm just using this as an example. Italy will say, we've got to target one of the two games. So we're going to pick our strongest side, for example, for the Boks, but we're going to pick a weaker side for the All Blacks. And if you can be sitting by your computer when that team news comes out and where Italy name effectively a B side against the All Blacks, you're going to see that line move from, let's just say for argument's sake, minus 30 out to minus 45. And that's where the opportunity is going to come in. But my advice to anyone at this stage of the tournament is just tread carefully because it's been a tough one in my opinion so far.
Gavin, we'll bring it on tomorrow's show, the game itself, but just a quick one which I've picked up on social media and Brent talking about the B team, and I've actually not seen the handicap move too much, but just in general there, how do you see Rassie's plan there for using a B team? Do you think it's an unnecessary risk to almost open yourself up for Brighton, Japan kind of effort, or is it completely fair game to him to say that, listen, he's got a 31-man squad, he's got faith in all of them, he doesn't want to risk an injury, he wants to keep his guys fresh for the big game? Do you see any risk in that or any downside to that, or do you think he should have stuck to some of his big guns there?
No, Han. Unfortunately, I did try WhatsApp, Rassie. I haven't got 2 blue ticks. I don't even have 2 grey ticks. I've got 1 grey tick. So I've either been given someone else's number or he's just, completely blocked me. I told him to put Pollard in the team because I've got my bet on Pollard to win the tournament. He's not listening, obviously. Look, I don't think there's any issue from South Africa's point of view. We're not Fiji and we're not playing Uruguay. South Africa will beat Namibia. In fact, my great grandchildren will never see Namibia beat South Africa. So I don't think there's any possibility of a loss there. If there is a price on South Africa, you can put your granny's pension on it. You just earn a little bit of interest. I don't know what price you'll get, but that's not going to happen. He's got to give Elton a chance. How much game time Elton will play for the rest of the tournament. I heard him on the radio on the way home talking about putting Skulpritz in number 8, suggesting that he wants Bongi Mbonambi to play the full, play as much of the full 80 as he can, 60, 70 minutes. Then he suggests that he's going to put Skulpritz from number 8 back to number 2 afterwards. Obviously, Malcolm Marx is not in the team. Look, he's obviously trying a few things, and I think this minus 58 that's going on offer or thereabouts at the moment, I don't think it's going to change much. Quite frankly, it's already 20, 21, 22 points odd shorter than the last time we beat them. And Namibia haven't improved that much since then. Yes, I know they got 22 and they were the highest scoring losing team going into the Fijian game today. Fiji's obviously taken that away. They're unlikely to regain that scalp. Sorry, I'm just reading Joe Lyons over here. Suggests I've got no money left. He's 100% right. I did take a hit over the weekend. I am on a minus right now. But there's lots of games to go. I'm not depressed about it. In fact, I'd like to say that the bookmakers probably also lost over the weekend. All the predictions that came through, probably most of them were mug punter predictions. And as you know, good punters end up winning at the same time as bookmakers do. So, I don't take anything with that. You do get losing games, and obviously we all come back at some stage. South Africa with Namibia, I don't think there's a problem. We'll still beat them comfortably. I don't think we'll beat the 58. Although we can beat it. It's not a game I'm going to get stuck into. I may have a go at halftime there. I don't think there's an issue. Rassie knows what he's doing. He's not a mug. We'll still get to the final, and we'll still be playing New Zealand in the final.
Brent, I'll leave your Bok comments for tomorrow. I was just talking a little bit on the squad news there, but don't worry. I think we can really knuckle down in that one tomorrow. Italy against Canada. Brent, have you got a punt lined up there yet? How do you see this one going?
Look, Couch, I haven't got anything awfully strong there. I must say I have gone for, in fact, both pluses tomorrow. So I've gone for, I think in the preview it was plus 18.5 or plus 19.5. Canada, I just feel that yes, the guys have tended to come out in their first game. If you look at the performances of Russia, you look at the Blue today, the sides have given their best in the first game. I also, think at the end of the day, while Italy are going to win this game, I think Italy are really eyeing out that probably the Bach test, because all the nations suddenly they want to go through to the last 8. The chances of them going through to the last 8 are very slim, but I don't see them throwing everything at this Canadian team. And I think that Canada can beat the handicap there of 18.5 points. It's not a confident call. If I had to base it on a 10-unit scale, I'd be coming in with a unit or two, probably 2 units on this one.
Kevin?
Yeah, you can see, I'm just trying to get in the picture here. I've got my jacket that my brother brought to me. He was working in Whistler in the 2010 Winter Olympics. He brought me a Canadian jacket here. Proudly wearing it tonight. I'm all over the Canadian Plus. When I say all over, nowhere near anything like 3 to 5 units. It's like a 1-unit play for me. But I do believe the Plus is the right way to go tomorrow with with Canada. Look, you would have known watching any of my videos going up until about a year ago when Canada were trying to qualify for the World Cup. They were beaten by Romania. They were beaten by Georgia. America beat them a couple of times, and then there was a draw. It was a bizarre result. But Canada have been absolute rubbish. I've got to tell you, I'd have to go back to the internet to find out how they even qualified for this tournament. And then, I just want to make one more comment. Brent said he saw that Uruguay had smashed Russia. I don't know if he saw the jersey score, because if he'd seen the jersey score, he would have probably thought that Uruguay were playing below par, that they only won by as much as they won by. But yeah, I'm definitely on the Canadian Plus here. I've got to suspect that Italy, you're 100% right, Han, are going to rest a few players for this game. They're going to take it exactly like the Fijians did today. They're going to expect to win the game. I don't think Canada have ever come close to beating Italy in the past. But this is Canada's first game, so they are fresh. Italy were never really in trouble with Namibia. I know that there was periods of the game that they were just a few points ahead or sort of level up. I know Namibia scored first, but I can't see Canada winning this game. I don't see it going within 10 points, but I'm certainly expecting the result to be about 10 to 20 points, which is well on the plus side of the handicap. It's obviously possible Italy can beat this handicap. It's unlikely, though. I certainly think that it's a case of take the plus or don't have a bet. I wouldn't be going minus Italy in this game. I think it's a dangerous play. Even if Italy had beaten the handicap against Russia, I don't know if this handicap would have been much higher than this. I think it's well set, but it is well set for plus punters. And so far, I think we've had 11 games or 10 games in the tournament. Not a single handicap above 20, or in this case above 18, has been beaten by a minus team. All the pluses have arrived on the big games. The big handicap games have all arrived on the plus side. If you'd stuck away from all the closer games, obviously the only one with the exception, depending on the handicap, you did get your bet, was the Australians beating Fiji by the minus. But by that game, all the other big pluses have arrived, and I don't see anything changing tomorrow.
Just on the team news there, Oracle, it's Italy have just kept Thomas Allan at fly-off. He's the only guy who's got the same number on his back, and then they've got 3 guys who remain in the team. Bromstein, I know, switches to number 8 from flank, and there at the back they've got a couple of guys who are just shifting from centre to wing and from wing to fullback. If I'm not, Hayward goes from fullback to wing. So they've made plenty of changes. So yes, it is pretty much a complete B team as you guys anticipated. I was getting ready, as Oracle and Gavin Brent said, I haven't gone big either thus far, and I was just about lining up a really big play on the Canadian Plus. But the more I look at it, the more worried I am that perhaps the bookies are starting to slowly get back onto terms there with the pluses. I mean, this Canadian team went 0 from 3 in the Pacific Nations Cup. They lost their best result was a 10-point loss to Tonga. So I must say I'm a little bit concerned. I'm not really ready to throw some cash at Canada at this moment. I think Italy weren't great, but they weren't too bad, and a late try by Namibia saw them not beating the handicap, which they would have there. So there's nothing large for me. I did say I was going to take the first half handicap again. Today I told everyone, listen, don't mug around with these half-time ones. Just go for full-time. And yeah, I am. saying I think first game out, Canada are going to come out firing, and I think Italy with a new team might struggle to find their rhythm. So I was hoping for 10. I've got 9.5 at the moment for first half handicap. That's where I'm going there. And points is 50 and 50.5. I'm not really gonna look at that. The one thing I do think is I have a feeling that Canada could contribute some points. So I'm also gonna go for over 7.5 first half points from Canada. I'm expecting them to score a try, and hopefully there's a penalty kick as well. So over 7.5 Canada. That's for evens. And my special player of Bet Olymp is Matteo Bellini. He played the last game on the wing. He's on the bench. So I see him coming on off the bench and scoring the last try. And you can get 10-1 on him. So that's my little play on that game. Guys, then on to England, USA. Brent, the handicap, if you're a plus punter, you can get 34.5. I think if you're minus, you can get as low as 32.5. Total points is 58.5. Where are you going in this one again? Probably edging towards the plus on USA.
Yeah, edging towards the plus. There's no doubt once again in my mind that if England really wanted to, they could put this USA team away by plenty. I think at the end of the day, once again, they'll be happy just to secure a bonus point. They'll probably want to do it a little bit earlier than they did in their previous match. But I think USA plus 34.5. I think Henrik and the guys on the forum were onto the plus 38.5 when it came out. So that line has in fact moved down in the USA's favour. 34.5 is a lot of points. To Gavin's point, these big handicap minuses have not been arriving. We've probably got to try and anticipate, as I say, when teams' attitudes change. But for now, I'm happy to stick with the plus there. I haven't had a look. I'll have a quick look now while you guys are talking. But I might be tempted by USA under points there because I think England pride themselves a lot on their defence. And I think a lot of tomorrow is going to be about keeping the USA out.
Well, Brent, I'll go to Gavin now, but I mean, if you're thinking USA are going to be low on points and you're thinking the handicap's going to come in, then perhaps the 58.5 total points is a decent one to go under there. Gavin, something for you in that game?
Yeah, sorry, Han. Another statistic I want to point out here. Excuse me, going along the lines of the big pluses arriving. A lot of these minus teams haven't actually scored the amount of points that their handicap is, and that's also a bit of a concern. So we got to look at this already. You got England here at minus 34.5, 32.5, 33.5, round about that line. Are they even going to score that many points? I mean, they battled to score that amount with regards to the Tonga game was atrocious. I mean, Tonga scored 3 points, which tells me that game was all England. And where are the rest of the points? I believe USA will score more than 3. Again, it's their first game, so they are fresh. England I haven't seen the lineup, but I've got to assume they're resting a hell of a lot of players. They've got to worry about Argentina coming because Argentina have to win that game, and then they've got those French coming. So England are probably really a little bit worried now. You saw the interview after the game with Eddie Jones, suggesting that he's happy, he got his 4 points. That's all he wanted. They're going to score 4 tries. That could be 20. That could be 28. I mean, we saw today with those Fijians. They showed the graphic on the screen of how the Fijian kicker had done against the Uruguayan kicker. The Uruguayan kicker had four green lines and 1 red line, and the Fijian had 4 red lines and 1 green line. I might be out by 1 or 2 lines here and there, but it was ridiculous. That Uruguayan kicker was probably thinking, wow, this is unbelievable. I can't kick. And what a nice stadium. Sorry, I got to point that out. Full of what looked like handout tickets. There were all sorts of crowds with the same clothes on. Looked like they'd handed them out to the local schools around the area, but they did fill the stadium. And what a nice setting, nice mountains, a beautiful day game. I really did enjoy it. But yeah, for me, yeah, Groot Lem has just suggested that Gary Gold is a factor for the USA. He will have a plan. Look, the USA are not going to get thumped here. I suggest they're going to score in the region of 10 to 15 points. And to beat that handicap, that means England has got to score 50. Can't see England scoring 50 against this team. They'll stop at 25 or 28 or 32, and it'll be over. In fact, I'm of the opinion they won't even score the handicap in points for themselves.
Yeah, on the team news front, they've got a whole new centre pairing and new wingers. The good and slightly bad news. I was just going to say the good and bad news for you is Owen Farrell's on the bench, so he could come on
and play 3 minutes at the end.
Yeah, but the only problem for you is he's definitely going to play the next 2 games since they're the big ones. So he's
You won't
involved in
get
every
points in
game
those games.
where Pollard has the opportunity to only be in 2. So there's a little bit of a there's a little bit of trouble for you. But no, it's and at the front they've got Billy Pinapolo is still at 8-man, but the rest is pretty much all changes there in the front. So yeah, it's yeah, more than 10 changes for England. Again, probably I haven't had a look, but first off, handicap would interest me, but I still think that 34-ish is probably good enough to go on its own. And I've actually got my best bet for tomorrow, which I'll just share just now. But that's definitely the USA in the Pacific Nations Cup. They beat Samoa and they beat Canada, but they lost to Japan. So they're definitely on a better footing than Canada in those type of lines, if you want to put it like that. England, I think, won't have any problem getting the job done. But again, USA's first match out, as we said there, the Gary Gold factor, and yeah, England not really have any incentive to keep it going. So probably the handicap's the way to go. My special play with Bet Olympus, Jonathan Joseph, who scored 2 or more tries. But there's another little play there with a speculative punt. Jonathan Joseph to score anytime he plays outside centre, and England to win by 26-30. That is my play there at 15-1, just a nice little interest. And I think it's, 26-30 just gives you under that handicap amount. So I think you should pretty much be in it for most of the game. So it's nice if you want a little interest. Then just me finally, I'll do the double. I like Canada plus 26.5, USA plus 40.5. Throw that into a double and you get 11-10. To me, if you want a nice thing, to me, that's what I'm going to put a little bit of cash on, and I think I'm feeling pretty good about turning this World Cup around with that one. Anything else for you, gents?
I think from our side, I like that double that you played there. I think it's certainly taking the bigger handicap, the lesser price, and putting the 2 together is a good one. Just to make one other point about the likes of England. I mean, England clearly have made, as Stephen Mock said, they've made 10 changes. But I think just the other thing to bear in mind when you're punting, there's a big difference. Well, let me put it to you this way. There's not such a big difference between England's, let's call it the A and B side, as opposed to, for example, when Uruguay pick their B side to play. There's not as big a difference. In other words, quite a few of these England players are knocking on the door. They're perhaps hoping to get starting opportunities. So just something to bear in mind. It doesn't change my mind that I do think the plus is good. And I think I might put double that 11-10. I think that's a good one.
Oracle?
Yeah, sorry, just to point out, Brent's correct in what he's just said now, but I've also got another opinion with this. When you throw the likes of these fringe players, the guys that are trying to get in, they start to play on their own, and I see a lot of individual stuff, and Oaks want to score tries and rather than pass the ball, and I've seen it so many times before that. Although I agree with you, Brent, it doesn't always happen on the field. You could get a B team come on there and you got 15 individuals, whereas an A team is a 15-man team. And I've seen it so many times, and it's just I hear you, but I'm not buying what you're selling at this point. Not for England. I think there's too many guys that want to get in that team, and they're prepared to do it on their own.
Guys, thanks.
One more comment. Sorry, Joe suggesting earlier. After having a go at me, telling me I've got no money in my wallet. It is payday tonight, so the wallet will be filled up. Don't worry, Joe. And secondly, you're 100% right. This is a marathon and not a sprint. A mug punter is a guy that climbs into the next game to try and recover any losses that he made over the last day or two. Don't do that. There's a lot of us watching the show, and in the backgrounds of the guys that are on this show and on the WhatsApp groups and on the forums that know what they're doing. A lot of them are down on the World Cup so far. Some of them a little bit, some of them a lot. You just got to hang in there, keep to your discipline, keep to your money management. Don't do anything stupid and think you know better than everybody else and you'll come flying into the next game. Take it steady, take it slow, and rather concentrate, and you'll find the game that'll come right there for you. So don't worry about it. I'm down. I'm not climbing into the games tomorrow. I'm not a mug. I will get my money back, and I will show a profit at the end of the rugby. So just stick to it, stick to what you know, and don't be greedy and don't be a mug.
As Oracle says there, we're down, but we're certainly not out. Listen, tomorrow night we've got the handicappers back, so we'll be covering the Bok game and Saturday's games and maybe some Mitre 10 Cup and things like that. I'm sure it'll be a good discussion with the lads. So don't miss the show tomorrow. Good for the games, the handicap. It should be pretty good viewing. And then thanks again for everyone watching. Thanks for the live comments and everyone for joining us. And thanks to my guest. Cheers, guys, and see you again.
Cheers, guys. Enjoy the rugby.